is your French teacher filling in?
For the gym teacher filling in for sex ed.
It's just like our movie where they're just like, anyone want to teach this class?
Volunteers, yeah, totally.
Does that make sex ed more romantic because it's coming from a French teacher? A little accent going on there?
Scarier.
You talked a little bit about your conservative upbringing, and you also used the term reparenting. Why did that feel like rich ground for both some of the deeper themes you guys explore in this film and the comedic aspects of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a coming of age of a young woman who's a virgin who gets a job teaching sex ed. So it definitely took me back to my high school sex ed experience. And it was like, I mean, I grew up in a Persian family. We were pretty progressive within our community, but still talking about like sex, dating, relationships, it was pretty still taboo. And I also didn't have access to information at school because in the American high school curriculum, it's also pretty, it was pretty dismal. It was like our gym teacher teaching us sex ed. And so there was just a lot of like teenagers that are really misinformed. So this spoke to me because it's sort of satirizing that experience. But it also has like a big heart. There's humor, there's hope. It's got my 3 H's, heart, humor, hope.
Ooh, baby.
That's why I did this.
Is the gym teacher teaching sex ed at a public school like the universal theme that's going to unite everybody when watching this movie?
Lily's not the gym teacher, but I think both of us
But that theme is
real.
correct.
Yeah.
We
I had the same
both
experience.
Had the experience. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think both of us, our gym teachers taught us sex ed.
Correct.
And it was like 10 minutes. But yes.
Actually, you know what? I'm just having a flashback memory. You know what's funny? It was my gym teacher, but the gym teacher was away. So it was the French teacher that was filling in for the gym teacher.
Just
that
like
filled
anyone.
in to
It's
do
even
sex
more
ed.
confusing.
do
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot going on there.
Wow, that's
Wow, is your French teacher filling in?
for the gym teacher filling in for sex ed.
It's just like our movie where they're just like, anyone want to teach this class?
Volunteers, yeah,
Does
totally.
that make sex ed more romantic because it's coming from a French teacher? A little accent
it
going
makes
on
it
there?
Scarier.
Did she teach it in French? I think there was like, really grounded elements, but also there's a lot of heightened comedy.
Sure. And what was your elevator pitch to Lilly to sign on to this project?
I think they were like on board already. So it was, but like, I think it was sort of like, what did we pitch it as? Like American Pie meets Lady Bird.
Yeah, you said that and that sounded great.
It's like grounded relational stories with heightened comedy.
For Lilly, I know this is your first feature film role. Why did a collaboration with Sara feel like the right fit for your first feature?
I mean, she's awesome, as you can tell. She's great. She's so lovely to work with. This subject matter is something really close to my heart. It's not, I always say, it's not based on a true story, but like, it's based on millions of true stories. There's so many people that can relate to this. When I saw the premise of this and I heard the premise, I was like, oh my goodness, this is such an important story. I really did feel like a woman had to be leading the story, and especially a diverse woman, because I think we just never see anything like this. I've never seen this point of view on a screen before, and I wanted to make sure someone like Sara was in charge of that. And she's just cool, and I like working with cool people that are nice to work with. She let me play on set and, let me bring myself and let me try things in certain scenes that, whether it worked or not, was irrelevant. It was just like to kind of create, which was really cool.
I'm curious, just because you have so much experience across different digital mediums, how does that past experience help kind of inform the process of acting for the first time?
Yeah, I'm going to say this how this
film?
needs to be said. I am both a delight to work with because of that and a horror to work with because of that. Coming up on the digital space, I edited my own stuff. I wrote my own stuff. I produced my own stuff. I directed my own stuff. I edited my own stuff. Did I already say that? But the point is that I understand all of those things pretty well. That's good because as an actor, I know, I messed that up. They won't be able to cut those things together. I got to restart from this line. I'm like editing it in my mind and many directors have told me that they can tell I have that on set because they're like, oh, the way you did that is like, we can edit that now. However, I think sometimes it can be a little bit of a con because I have a compulsion to get involved in things that are no longer my job. Like on this set, I'm not the editor, I'm not all that, but I think I still have a little bit of like just to confirm, you guys, we're gonna do it like this. And so I have to just remind myself that like on this film I did have a lot of roles, but to stay dedicated to those roles so that I can fully live in those roles. So I think, I'm prepared, but could also be a little bit like, shut up and stop telling us this thing.
So what do you hope this film says about identity? Because obviously high school and sex education, it's a very formative time in a lot of people's lives. What do you want the audiences to take away from that aspect of the film?
I mean, I think the movie aims to, inspire more open conversations about sex and sexuality, not just within our families, regardless of cultural background, but in high school, kind of starting a conversation about how sex and sexuality is taught in high schools. Because there's so many different versions and every country does it really differently. But it's really just to open the conversation. And this movie was that sounds very messagey, but it's such a fun comedy with such a good female lead. Lily is so funny. She really carries the movie, and it's just it's like a laugh a minute. I think it's just it's a really fun movie.
Another thing I'll say about identity is I feel like so often it's served to us on a silver platter of this is who you are and these are all the things you should be. What I love about this movie is it's kind of teaching you, and I think it's an important lesson, which is it doesn't matter how old you are, you have the ability to unlearn certain parts and relearn certain parts of what you were taught to form an identity that works for you. And that's what I love about this. I think that especially women and girls, we're not really ever encouraged to do that. What works for you? What decisions are right for you as a person? And this movie really poses you to be what does work for me? I am allowed to make decisions for myself. So I think it's an important message in that way.
And it's about an Indian American virgin who gets a job teaching sex ed, but the virgin storyline is not a punchline. It's she's learning her identity and she's coming of age on her own terms. And so it's a very grounded story with relatable characters, but she's coming of age on her own terms.
You got some amazing comedic talent in this film. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of casting? Some of these people kind of color in around Lily, and then Lily just working with some just amazing comedic talent.
I mean, Anna Gasteyer, when she signed on as the principal, I was so stoked because she was such a comic icon when I was growing up. I grew up watching her on Saturday Night Live, and so I was so happy that she joined. Sabrina Jalise it was such a surprise and such a great find. And her scenes with Lily, they just they pop. They're so funny. I was when they would do scenes together, I was thinking about doing a buddy comedy with just them, because they just had so much fun. They played well, so they were just great. And Stephanie Beatrice, also fantastic. We just have a really funny
Mary as well.
And Mary Holland. Yeah, all the funny ladies are in this movie. And there's so much diversity too.
Yeah, I was going to say the process for me was me sliding into everyone's DMs, be please do this movie. Please do this movie. And a lot of them said yes. So that's, I slid to Stephanie's DMs, Mary's. I was please, I love you. Please do this. This is a little movie.
Thanks for making those calls, because it really paid off. We have such a good ensemble cast.
I wanted to ask about some of the more specific cultural elements that you guys might be really proud of from your own upbringings, as well as kind of more generally, which themes do you feel are going to be really universal for people?
Maya in the movie is Indian American. And she even says this in the film at one point. She says, this isn't just an Indian thing. I think the film, of course, is told with a certain cultural lens. Her mother's in it, and there is a little bit of portion that takes place in India. But I think that's just to inform who she is. But I really feel you could be from pretty much any culture, and you're probably going to relate to a lot of this movie. Because lucky for our movie, unfortunate for us in real life, there's no place on this planet where men and women are treated equally. And there's nowhere on this planet where women are not shamed for their bodies and sex and all those things. So I think it's relatable in a lot of different ways. Of course, there's little things from each of our lives that are in the movie, but I really believe that anyone's going to watch this and be that was my high school, that was my experience, that was my friend, that was my mom, which is kind of wild, because I also think at the same time, a point of view like this has never been shown on screen. So it's wild that I think it's the first time, and so many people are going to be able to relate.
Totally. It's really a specific story. I mean, I grew up in a Persian home. Lily grew up in an Indian home. We had obviously a lot of connection there. My best friend was Indian growing up. So I think especially in talking about sex and sexuality, but also in high school, where we would turn to, nobody had any resources. So everyone's just wildly misinformed. So I think it is very specific to this one woman, but it has a lot of universal themes. I think it's true what they say. The more specific, the more universal it becomes.
So while you guys were prepping for making this movie, what was the high school comedy you had to turn on to kind of get yourself in the right headspace?
I love high school comedies. I mean, I grew up on like John Hughes movies, Breakfast Club. Ferris Bueller was something I looked at. So those are kind of the classic ones, the Molly Ringwald movies. But more contemporary stuff, I looked at American Pie because this is a raunchy sex comedy. So I looked at that movie again because it was so iconic when I was a teen. Yeah, those were some of them. What about you?
School of Rock. Yeah, I was going to School of Rock. Easy A.
Yes, Easy A.
Was definitely a go-to
It's like a new
for
classic.
me as well.
I know, totally. That one for sure was like one of my first exposures to like that subject matter and being like, oh, this woman's like, the first time I actually saw a woman that was like embracing
Yeah.
her sexual journey in that way, which was really cool.